Hi everyone, it's Graham again and welcome back to my channel. So today I am here with a top 10 and the top 10 is Agatha Christie's top 10 favourites of her own books that she wrote. And yeah, I haven't read them all and that kind of makes me feel a bit sad, but yes, let's dive in. So in 1972, in response to a Japanese fan, Agatha Christie wrote the following. My own 10 would certainly vary from time to time because every now and then I reread an early book for some particular reason to answer a question that has been asked me perhaps, and then I alter my opinion, sometimes thinking it is much better than I thought it was, or not as good as I had thought. At the moment, my own list would possibly be, so this list was in 1972, this is a few years before Agatha Christie passed away, and this is what's on the agathachristie.com website. So the list may have changed after this particular list was made, but I'm going to go on what is here. So the first book, she says about it, a difficult technique, which was a challenge, and so I enjoyed it, and I think I dealt with it satisfactorily. And that book is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, obviously. This is an incredible book. I have read this at least once, and it tells the story of a group of 10 people who are invited to an island, and they are all guilty of some form of crime, and they get their just desserts. This is a standalone, it doesn't have any of Agatha Christie's other famous characters. There's no Poirot, there's no Miss Marple, there's no Tommy and Tuppence. It's just these 10 people and they get their comeuppance, and it's incredible. The twist at the end is one that only Agatha Christie could deliver. It's incredible and I loved it, and it's due for a reread soon, so there we go. So the next one, she says basically that it is a general favourite, and that is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. I have read this at least once, I think, possibly twice. This is a perfect locked room mystery. This created a bit of controversy when it was first published in 1926. The rules of the murder mystery were thrown completely out of the window by Agatha Christie, and she came up with her own rules. And the twist ending, again, is one that only Agatha Christie could write. And again, this is another one that I must reread because it's just fabulous. This is Poirot, and it's just amazing. I recommend this and the previous book. So, book number 3 on Agatha Christie's list. What she says about it is, I thought all the characters interesting to write about and felt I knew them quite well by the time the book was finished. And that book is A Murder is Announced by Agatha Christie. And this is a Miss Marple, and I have read this one twice, possibly 3 times. It's a Miss Marple. It tells the story of a newspaper article has been put into the newspaper, and it's announcing a murder at this woman's house. So all of her neighbours show up and there is a murder. And again, the ending, the twists, the turns, it's incredible. And the characters are so well drawn, and you do feel for them, even the bad ones. And again, this is another one that I highly recommend, and one that I must reread soon. So, and the 4th book, her 4th favourite, I'm so excited. All she says is, again, because it was a new idea for a plot. And it is Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. This is my all-time favourite Agatha Christie, and possibly my all-time favourite book ever. I adore this. It tells the story, it's a Poirot, it tells the story of a group of people who are stuck on a train which has run into a snowdrift. It's the Orient Express, a very posh train in the 1920s and 30s. The levels of luxury and no amount of money is spared for these travelling people on the train, and one of them is murdered. And each person is questioned by Poirot, and it turns out that the man who is murdered has been guilty of the kidnap and murder of a young child about 2 or 3 years before the story begins. And is it a story of revenge? Who has killed him? Oh, it's just amazing. Poirot steps in, and this book is a real turning point for Poirot because it makes him question everything. It makes him question himself, his faith, his understanding of justice. Just everything is questioned, and this is amazing. Again, I need to reread this soon, but this is going to be Christie Fest's choice for November, which is my 35th birthday in November, so that's like a great birthday present, and I'm so excited. But I highly recommend this one, absolutely, because it is the high watermark of the Agatha Christie novel. I love it so much. So, novel number 5 from Agatha Christie's favourite list. And going forward, I have read none of these. So, all she says about this one is a good series of stories. So it is The 13 Problems by Agatha Christie. Now, this is a collection of Miss Marple stories. I have not read this. I think I may have started to read this a few years ago and didn't continue on. I think I may have read maybe 2 or 3 of the stories, but I will read you what it's about. The appearance of Miss Marple in Murder at the Vicarage provided detective fiction with a new and distinctive character. Miss Marple, that delightfully clever village spinster who solves the most amazing mysteries quietly and unobtrusively from her chair by the fireside, appears in each of the stories comprising the 13 problems. Each story is a little masterpiece of detection, clever and ingenious, and with just that added twist that only Agatha Christie can give. And some of the stories that are in here are The Tuesday Night Club, The Idle House of Astarte, Ingots of Gold, The Blood-Stained Pavement, Motive V's Opportunity, The Thumb Mark of St. Peter, The Blue Geranium, The Companion, Four Suspects, A Christmas Tragedy, The Herb of Death, The Affair at the Bungalow, and Death by Drowning. I need to get to this because I do remember reading it and quite enjoying the stories that I read, but just not continuing on with it. So yeah, I have to get on with it. So the next one, number 6, is another one I have not read. And what Agatha Christie says about it is, I found it interesting to work on the idea of people from different places coming towards a murder, instead of starting with the murder and working from that. So the book is Towards Zero by Agatha Christie. I have not read this. I recently hauled this edition in a video just recently, but I haven't read it. I think, is this a standalone? Possibly, maybe. Let's see, let's read. Murder begins before the actual deed, said Mr. Treves, a distinguished barrister, at the last dinner party which Lady Tressilian ever gave. The next morning she was found dead. With consummate skill, Mrs. Christie draws a series of cameos introducing the leading characters who take part in the ensuing drama. There was Neville Strange, Lady Tressilian's ward and heir, his wife Kay, his former wife Audrey, Mary Alden, a distant cousin and Lady Tressilian's companion for many years, Thomas Royd, who was in love with Audrey. The evidence points first to one person and then to another, and so it seems until the very end. As the New Statesman said, there is no hocus pocus with Mrs. Christie. nothing but straightforward bamboozling from start to finish. So I think this is a standalone. I don't think this has any of Agatha Christie's other characters, Poirot or Miss Marple, and that does sound very intriguing. So hope to get to this one soon. So book number 7. All she said about this one was my own favourite at present. Now I have heard incredible things about this particular book, and this edition I'm so excited about because it is a first edition, well, a first book club edition, so it's not like a true first edition. It is Endless Night by Agatha Christie. Now look at that, isn't that just beautiful? I just love it. I love it so much. The artwork on some of Agatha, in fact most of Agatha Christie's, in fact all of them, it's just outstanding. The site of the house called the Towers had once been known as Gypsy's Acre. When it was sold, Michael Rogers went to the auction, though he hadn't any money. His dream was of a new house on the old site, to be built by his brilliant young architect friend. It was at Gypsy's Acre that Michael first saw the girl he was to marry. The account of Michael's courting of Ellie, their growing attraction for each other, is the starting point of the drama that begins and ends at Gypsy's Acre. The story ends in the revelation of a monstrous crime, complete with all the paraphernalia that had been required to effect it. A new novel by Agatha Christie is always a momentous event in the calendar of crime novel publishing. In this doom-laden story, different in kind from the experiences of Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple, all the author's great gifts of subtlety and interpretation are on full display. Here, from the master of crime storytelling, is something new and different, something extraordinarily exciting. I have to get to this soon because it just sounds fabulous, and it's no wonder that Agatha Christie liked it because it does sound great. So number 8, all she said about this one was, I found a study of a certain family interesting to explore. And the book is Crooked House by Agatha Christie. Again, one I have not read, and I've heard really good things about it. This is Agatha Christie's 49th detective story. It is 29 years since her first was published, yet custom cannot stale her infinite variety, and we have little hesitation in asserting that if this new story is not the best she has ever done, then it is the second only to that classic of detection, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. It is certainly a remarkable witness to her unfailing verve that when she is nearing her half-century, she should still be able to knock one slap over the top of the pavilion to the fervent applause of her crowd of admirers. The old jingle, all live together in a little crooked house, here applies to the 3 generations of the Leonides, or Leonides, I think it's Leonides, who lived together under the sheltering roof of 3 gables, a large household over whom the very old and very rich Aristide Leonides had long presided. Not that there was anything about the very respectable Leonides that was crooked in the dishonest sense, but nevertheless all its members had grown up a little bit twisted in their outlook on life. But even now in death, that little old man with the dark velvet skull cap and the head sunken in his shoulders seemed to live on, a very real presence in that house of tragedy. A poisoner's hand had struck him down, but it was the old Greek himself who had supplied the blueprint for his own murder, actually suggesting the very method to be used by the right person. The murderer must have been one of the family, but who was capable of this cold-blooded and calculated poisoning? Who was the right person? As always, Agatha Christie shows herself to be still the master of her medium, the incomparable queen of mystery, and Crooked House adds another jewel to her crown. I have heard such good things about this one, and I so need to get to it, and I can't wait to, because it does sound fabulous. So, book number 9 on Agatha Christie's list. All she says about this one is, an idea I had had for some time before starting to work upon it. And it is Ordeal by Innocence by Agatha Christie. I love this first edition cover. It's so dramatic and yeah, it's lovely. Ordeal by Innocence combines another dazzling demonstration of the Christie guile and skill with a convincing and brilliant study of a family who found that they were living with murder. And that's basically all that one says. So yeah, I haven't heard very much about this one, but if it's on Agatha Christie's top 10 list, it must be a good one. So yeah, here we go. And finally, number 10 on the list, another one I have not read, and all that Agatha Christie says about it, which I have reread lately and enjoyed reading it again very much. And that book is The Moving Finger by Agatha Christie. Again, one I have not read. On the back it has an advertisement for Five Little Pigs, which is a fabulous one. It's a Poirot, and we love Poirot here. But I shall read you what this book is about. As a place to convalesce after a bad flying crash, Lymstock sounded ideal. So thought Jerry Burton when he took a house there for himself and his sister Joanna. But they soon discovered that the undercurrents of this placid backwater were both swift and dangerous. A poison pen was hard at work sending letters which were usually as ridiculous as they were unpleasant, until one day the shaft struck home and death resulted. Who could it be in this peaceful old world village who was bent on creating chaos? The police found many suspects and their investigations revealed some surprising facts, but they didn't find the criminal, and the letters went on circulating. It needed an expert in human wickedness to solve the mystery of the moving finger. Here is Mrs. Christie at her most subtle and her most entertaining. Now, I think this may be a Miss Marple, but I don't know. I don't think it is. Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't see Miss Marple's name anywhere. I always thought this was a Miss Marple for some reason, but I'm not sure. This may be a standalone. If I'm wrong, I will pop it on the screen. If I'm right, I'll pop it on the screen. But yeah, that is Agatha Christie's top 10 of her own novels. It never occurred to me that she'd have favourites of her own books, but of course she's written them, she's put them out into the world, and it must be the same with other authors who have written stuff. I mean, they've spent time with these characters, with the plot devices, and with the storyline and the story arcs, and they must get attached. And it's quite a nice thought to think that, well, my favourite was one of Agatha Christie's favourites, and there are at least 9 others that may be other people's favourites. But yeah, it never occurred to me before, and now that I know that she did have a top 10 favourite of her own list of novels that she published, it's kind of nice because I feel this is going to sound really silly, but I'm going to say it anyway, I kind of feel closer to her knowing that little bit more about her, and how she worked and how she reread her novels if she was asked a question about them, and you know that she had favourites of her own works. She didn't like Poirot though. No. She desperately wanted to kill Poirot off, but the publishers were like having none of it. But yeah, I'm so glad that she didn't kill him off because he is an incredible character. I think at the time that she wanted to kill Poirot off was when Miss Marple was born, I'm fairly certain. But yeah, just to know that Agatha Christie had a top 10 of her own novels, it's lovely. It really intrigues me. It really intrigues me. But before I go off on a tangent, I will let you go and get on with your day and get on with whatever you're reading. So I'll say thank you so much for watching. Whatever you're doing, I hope you have so much fun doing it. Whatever you're reading, I hope you love it. Stay fabulous, be amazing, be yourself, stay safe, and I'll see you again soon for another video. Bye bye.